there exists a Firefox plugin by the name of Vimperator, which basically adds Vim bindings into Firefox so that you can use your web browser in a more Vim-like way. But what if you were to take that idea and also the WebKit web engine, and then you basically just smash them together? Well, that's how you get Vim-B, which is a Vim-like web browser, and I think it is actually really, really cool. So by Vim-like, what I mean is basically it's full of Vim bindings, and the way that you actually do stuff in the web browser is very Vim-like, and the way that you configure it is also very Vim-like as well. So if you frequently use Vim, it should be pretty easy to get used to. Okay, so let's not waste any more time and just have a look at what this can do. Now, I haven't really done, I guess, that much configuration myself. Pretty much the only bit of configuration I've done is change my homepage, because by default, the homepage is set to about blank. But I'd much rather prefer to have it start on a search engine like DuckDuckGo. And because I'm on something that has an input field on it, what it's done is it's automatically put me into input mode. So input mode is basically the equivalent of insert mode in Vim. So if we want to go back to normal mode, what we can do is we can press escape. And as you can see, I've got screen key on just so it's a bit easier for you guys to see what I'm actually doing. Now, if we want to go to the first editable item on the web page, which in the case of DuckDuckGo and in the case of basically any sensibly designed web browser, that's going to be the box down here. Now, you might also notice that my mouse is actually working. So if I want to click on this and I want to search for something like, say, I don't know, YouTube. And as you can see, that is working. So I can type something in here. I don't even have to press enter. I can just press the search button up here. And the mouse is still working in this browser. I can scroll and I can do all the normal things that a mouse can do. So this is a WebKit-based web browser. So the mouse will still work perfectly fine. But being a web browser that is supposed to be Vim-based, it's expected that you're not really going to use the mouse that often, if ever. Basically, every action in this web browser can be done by doing some sort of Vim binding or running some sort of command. So speaking of commands, if we want to go into command mode, what we can do is press colon. So like you normally would do in Vim. And if we were to press tab here, what it's going to do is bring up a list of all of the commands. Now, it's being covered by my screen key, but as you can see, we have a bunch of commands in here. Now, I don't know if there's a binding to actually scroll through these. I haven't found it, but let's say we wanted to do something like, I don't know, just quit the web browser. So if I start typing in quit and then I tab complete it, what it's going to do is shorten down the list and autofill with quit, because quit is the first thing on that list. And if we just run this now, obviously it's going to quit out of the web browser. Now there's a different way to quit out as well, and I'll show you that in just a bit. I feel like you can probably also quit by just doing the Vim quit. Can you do that? Yes, you can. So if you'd much rather quit by doing :Q, you can do that as well. So let's just go back into that and test out some other stuff. Now, assuming we're just in normal mode, so we're not automatically focused on that input field, if we want to go and focus on the first input field on the web page, what we can do is press GI. So that means basically go to the first editable item. And if there was a previous editable item, what we could do is press I. So I don't have an example of a website that has multiple input fields, but that's how you'd go and do that. So let's say we wanted to search for something like, I don't know, let's just do the YouTube search again, because why not? Okay, so we've done a search now, but how would we actually go and select any of these links? Obviously, we can use the mouse, but what we're going to do instead is press F. Now, I'll explain what F is in just a bit, but for now, just think of it as a way to basically click on links. So let's say we wanted to go to the YouTube website, and as we can see, that is numbered as 15. I don't know if you can really read that well, but the number on that is 15. So basically, I open that up. All we have to do is press 15, and what it's going to do is open up the YouTube website. Okay, so now that we're here, let's say we wanted to go to a different website. So if we press O, what that's going to do is automatically fill the command zone with the open command. So the open command will let us do a search or go directly to a website. So let's say we wanted to go to, I don't know, www.library.com and give that a second to load. And there we go. Now we're on the library website. And let's say there was a subdomain we wanted to get to on this website. So what's one of the ones that could be interesting? So let's go to library.com/news. Now, obviously, we could go and click on the link, but let's assume we actually know what the subdomain actually is. So if we press capital O, what that's going to do is bring up the open command, but autofill with the link that we're currently on. So we can actually start typing in a subdomain and then jump directly to that. So in this case, we're jumping to library news. And let's say we wanted to open up something in a new tab. Well, tabbing isn't technically a thing in this web browser because it's a very minimal web browser. What it's going to do is open up a new window. But let's say we wanted to open up www.youtube.com in a new window. Now, you can do tabbing basically in the same way that you would do tabbing in something like Surf. So you would wrap the application in tabbed. So let's just quit out of this one. And you can also press capital T if you want to do the same thing as capital O, where it opens up the open command, but it autofills a link in there. So let's say we want to open a new tab with the library homepage. As you can see, works as you would expect. Okay, so let's say that we're done with all of this and we wanted to go back to our homepage. So what we can do is press GH and that jumps us back to our homepage. If we do G capital H, what that's going to do is open up our homepage in a new window. Now, another set of incredibly useful bindings is going forwards and backwards in history. So if we press Control O, what that's going to do is take us one step backwards in history. If we press Control I, what that's going to do is take us one step forward in history. But let's say instead of doing that, we wanted to go multiple steps backwards at once. Well, what we can do is give it a number input first. So let's say we wanted to go back, I don't know, 3 levels in history. So if we press 3 and then we press Control O, what that's going to do is take us back to YouTube, because if we press Control O, Control O, Control O, that'll take us back to this point. So instead this time, let's take 3 steps forward in history. So if we do 3, Control I, that takes us back to DuckDuckGo. And another thing you might want to do is reload a web page. So if we just press R, that will then go and reload. If we press capital R though, that's going to reload, but without using the cache. So if you have some sort of caching error, that's how you'd go and fix that. Now, it wouldn't be that much of a Vim-like application without its movement. So let's go just to something that we can actually scroll through. So let's just search for YouTube again. And what we can do is we can scroll up and down by using J to go down. We can go up with K. If we could scroll left and right, we could do that with H and L. But this website, there's no horizontal scrolling, so we can't actually do that here. If we want to go one page down, what we can do is press Control F. If we wanted to go multiple pages down, what we could do is give it a number first. So let's say we wanted to go 3 pages down. So 3, Control F takes us 3 pages down. And we can also go up by doing Control B. So Control B will take us 1 up, and we can do this with a number as well. We can also go half pages down. So if we do Control D, that takes us 1/2 page down, and we can give that a number as well. So we could go 3 half pages down, and we can do Control U to go half pages up. So let's say we wanted to go 4 half pages up. So 4 Control U takes us back to the top. Now, another thing we can do is we can jump to the bottom and the top of the web page. So capital G takes us to the bottom, GG takes us to the top. If we wanted to go to the leftmost point of the document, that would be 0. Rightmost point of the document would be $. But once again, as I said earlier, we can't actually scroll on this website. Okay, so the F action I told you about earlier was actually something called hinting. So what this basically will let you do is select parts of the website or do actions on things contained within the website. So what F was a binding for was for semicolon O. So semicolon O is for opening up something in the current window. So let's say we wanted to open up YouTube Music, but in this window. So that is number 18. As you can see, it's going to open up YouTube Music, and let's just go back to DuckDuckGo. And if we do capital F this time, or semicolon T, what that's going to do is open up in a new window. Now, keep in mind that sometimes it won't open up in a new window. It really depends on how the website is designed. So for example, if we do semicolon T and we try to open up images, because DuckDuckGo is designed as a single page application, that's not going to open up in a new window. But if it was something like, for example, the YouTube link here. So if we do semicolon T again, and we do it on number 15, that will open up in a new window. It really just depends on how the website is actually designed. But let's actually go over to images again, just so I can show you something. So what we can do here is we can do a different type of hinting, and this one is just going to limit us entirely to working with images. So I think the best way to describe this is to just show you how it works. So if I do semicolon I, as you can see, the only thing that it's actually letting me select in this case are the images on the website. So let's say we wanted to click on this image right here. So if I press number 3, that will then open up the link containing that image. Now, if we'd much rather have the image opened up in a new window, what we can do instead, let's just go back to this. We press semicolon capital I, and let's select the same image. That will then go and open that up in a new window. Now, let's say we wanted to actually save a link. So what we can do instead is, let's say we go semicolon S. Now, this will let us open up anything on the website, so we can save one of the images or save one of the links. Let's say we wanted to save this image right here. So let's just press 21 in this case, and you can't really see much because it's just a very small thing on the website, but down here it says that the image has finished downloading. So this image is going to be located by default in your home directory. So this is the problem with using screen key. It was actually hidden right behind it. But as you can see, the image is now opened up in SXIV, so that has gone and downloaded successfully. And if you don't like stuff downloading to your home directory, that can be set in the configuration file, and I'll show you that in just a bit. So the next thing I want to show you is how to do zooming. If we press ZI, what that's going to do is basically zoom in the text. So it's not really zooming. What it is just increasing the font size. And we can go in the other direction by pressing ZO. Now, like with the stuff that we saw earlier, this can also be combined with a number so we can go multiple steps at once. So if I do 5ZI, what that's going to do is zoom in 5 levels, or we can do 6ZO, and that will zoom out 6 levels. Now, if we actually want to do a proper zoom, so firstly, let's actually reset the text size. If we press ZZ, now, if we want to do a proper zoom, so this is actually going to magnify everything on the website, what we can do is press Z capital I, and that will zoom in everything on the actual website. So this is what you'd more traditionally think of as a zoom on a web browser. And we can go in the other direction by doing Z capital O. And like with the earlier ones, we can do multiple steps at once. So if we do, say, 6Z capital O, that will zoom out 6 levels. If we do 7Z capital I, that will zoom in 6 levels, and we can reset that by just pressing ZZ. And like any good web browser, we can go and set bookmarks. So let's go to a website that we want to bookmark. So let's just go to the library website, so library.com, and let's say we want to add this as a bookmark. And now the way that we do this is we run the command BMA. So BMA, and then basically we give it some tags. So let's just say the tag for this is going to be library. So what this is going to do is let us access the library website by just using the tag library. So let's go to a different website, and I'll show you what I mean. So if I press O, and then what I have to do to say that I'm accessing a bookmark is put in an exclamation mark. And if I was to start typing in library, so I'll just put an LB, and then I try to tab complete that. So what that will do is then automatically go and replace that with the actual link. So when you're using tags, basically it's saying, okay, well, when I see this tag, basically just go and replace it with whatever link that refers to. And I think you can have multiple links referring to one tag. So if you had multiple, you would have to go and decide which one you're going to use. So let's just go back to the library website, and then let's actually remove this bookmark. So if we do :BMR, basically what that's going to say is remove the bookmark for the current website, or we can also give it a link to it. So if you wanted to remove the library website, we could either go to the website or give it the link to the library website. But because we're on the website, we can just run it here. And as you're going to see down the bottom here, it says bookmark removed. And if we try to use that bookmark now, let's go back to the home page, and let's do open, and then type in exclamation mark and type in LB and try to tab complete it. And now that's not actually going to be doing anything. So there's a lot of configuration that can be done for Vim-B, and it's all pretty well explained over in the online man page or in the man page that's downloaded along with the application. So for key remapping, basically it works identically to the way that it works in Vim. So if you understand Vim key remapping, then you'll understand this pretty well. And basically what you're going to do is put it into the config file, which will be located in .config/vimb/config, or wherever you have your XTG config location set to. By default, though, that will be the .config directory unless you have a weirdly configured distro. So let's say we wanted to do something like set the download path. So I'm pretty sure the variable for that is actually just called download path. Yep, cool. So download path, path to the default download directory. If no download directory is set, download will written into the current directory. So that's the reason why it's opening up in home, because by default, when you run an application as a user, it's just going to be run from the home directory. So if we wanted to set the download path, as we can see, it takes in a string. So let's go and do that. So if I just go over to where that's located, that'll be in the .config folder, as I said, in the Vim-B folder. Now, I believe it makes this folder by default, but I don't think it will make the config by default, so you'll have to go and do that yourself. Now, I've only got 2 lines in here. Basically, I'm setting my editor and also my homepage. The homepage, as you can see, is being set to DuckDuckGo, but let's go and set the download path. So set download-path equals, so very similar to the way you'd set a variable within Vim, and let's set it to home / I don't know, pictures or something like that, because I've got too much stuff in my download directory and I don't feel like digging through that. So let's go and actually find something to download. So we'll have to quit out of this. I think there might be a way to reload the config, but like with regular Vim, it's just easier to reload the application. So let's actually search for something. Let's search for, I don't know, duck. Sure. And let's download this image right here. So if I just press ;S to do a save, and it seems like this is numbered as number 33. So if I press 33, that should go and download that duck. Now I'm going to assume that that has put it into the pictures directory. Let's actually see. So I don't actually have a link to my pictures. Duck. Yes, we do. Okay, that didn't download the image. That actually downloaded an HTML page. But the point still stands. Oh, it downloaded the entire Wikipedia page. Well, not what I wanted to happen, but it did download something and it put it into the pictures directory, so that variable worked fine, and the rest of the configuration is just as simple. So find the variable you want to set, see what sort of value it takes in, and then go and set it in the config file. If you're ever unsure about any of the configuration for this, go have a look at the commented sample configuration. That'll be linked down below. It's on the same website I was just showing you before. And basically, if you're unsure about anything, just go have a read through this and see basically how it's setting it, and you'll see that it's actually pretty straightforward how it works. So as you can see, basically set variable name equals value, and I don't think it has any key bindings. No, it does have some key bindings. So we have a key binding for zooming in, zooming out, and also resetting the zoom. So like a lot of other web browsers, it's set to plus, minus, and equals, but on those web browsers, it's usually like control plus, control minus, control equals. It's pretty much the same principle though. And as you can see, if you've ever done any key mapping within Vim, it's literally the exact same thing that you did in Vim. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about is, so a lot of these minimal web browsers have a way to do custom CSS, and Vim-B is, I guess, no slacker in that regard. So this right here is basically a global dark theme. Now, I don't know how well it's going to work on various websites, but you kind of get the gist. So if you want to do some sort of custom CSS that applies to every website, you can put it in your style.css file. Now, I think that unlike other browsers like Surf, there isn't a way to do individual website CSS. So that is a little bit annoying, but pretty much the only thing I use the CSS for is to pretty much disable my scroll bars. Because if I'm scrolling with Vim keys, I don't really need to see the scroll bar. Usually the only reason I need the scroll bar there is just to, scroll with the mouse. But if I'm not scrolling with the mouse, there's not really as much of a point to see the scroll bar. Now, I don't use this as my main web browser, but I do still think that it is really, really cool. And this doesn't really bother me about the web browser itself. It kind of bothers me about the state of web browsing in general. So it sort of bothers me that to see any of these really cool web browsers, you have to use something like WebKit. So obviously, Firefox has tons of plugins and Chromium has tons of plugins, but most of the Firefox and Chromium-based web browsers are all pretty much just the standard sort of web browser, which obviously is what most people want to use, but it does bother me that no one's really using something like Firefox and making something weird like this. You have, obviously, Pale Moon, which supports the older plugin framework, but that's about as weird as you get. Whereas with WebKit, you'll see weird things like a Vim-like web browser. So yeah, I do enjoy checking out the WebKit-based web browsers because most of them end up being pretty cool, if nothing else. And one last thing I want to mention is if you want to download it, it's available on Arch Linux, Gentoo, OpenSUSE, Package Source, and Slackware. The only thing that's missing from that list is XBPS for Void Linux. On any other distro, on like one of the more user-friendly distros like Ubuntu or something like that, I really can't imagine anyone wanting to use this, but if you do, then what you're going to have to do is go and install it manually, and that's explained on the GitHub, which will be linked down below, so feel free to go check that out. So I think that's pretty much everything for me, but before I go, I want to thank my patrons. So a special thank you to Joachim, Craig, Nathan, Andrew, Montazar, Peter D. Road, Tony, Donald, and Zilver. If you want to join the Patreon, there'll be a link to that down below, as well as my Amazon affiliate links where you can buy the gear I use in this channel or anything else you want, and I'll get a small kickback for it. Also, remember to check out my podcast, that is Tech Over Tea, available on Library and YouTube, and the audio version available wherever you listen to audio podcasts. Also, remember to check out this channel available on Library, BitTube, and BitChute. And remember to smash the like button and leave me a comment down below. And remember to subscribe and ding the little bell icon down below as well. So I think that's pretty much everything for me, and I'm out.